Hi, Casey.
Hey,
How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Doreen?
I'm doing great. It's so good
Good.
to see you. Happy
It
Friday.
is. Yes, happy Friday, indeed.
Well, I'm so excited for us to chat. This is our first ever live on the Element Instagram, so that's an exciting milestone.
Yay,
And
let's
it
kick
just
it
feels
off.
like this is such an important conversation and such a fun moment for us because we just launched our prenatal supplement comparison tool. So before we go into all of that, let's start off just by background. Let's tell everyone who you are. I will share a little bit about my background and how we connected. So go ahead, tell us about your amazing background.
Yeah, perfect. Well, I'm super excited to be here and to be a part of the Element team. Yeah, so I'm Casey Seiden. I'm a registered dietitian and I'm a certified diabetes care and education specialist. I'm based out of New York City and I currently work at a high risk OB practice in Manhattan where I help to support women during preconception, pregnancy, and postpartum. To take care of themselves and nourish themselves and their growing babies. And so it was through that connection that we got introduced through one of the maternal fetal medicine doctors at our practice, Dr. Fox. And I'm so happy that he thought to get us to connected.
Me too. So my interest in prenatal supplements started about 4 years ago now, where I'm sure anyone who's going to listen into this live, even after it's recorded, will relate with, which was having that experience going to my OBGYN when I was pregnant. And they told me, as they do everyone, you need to take a prenatal supplement. And then, of course, my next natural question was, well, which one should I take? And they left me really confused, to be honest, around not naming any particular brands. Even when I did find out specific brand name recommendations, I would look at the ingredient profiles and they would be totally different. So trying to really understand better why I should choose one brand over another. And this is really important because not only is the recommendation currently, among nearly 100% of OBGYNs to take a prenatal supplement, but also there's cost associated for pregnant people. Oftentimes they're spending, over $100 over the course of their pregnancy, and in some cases hundreds of dollars with their supplementation routine. So not to have more knowledge and empowerment around which supplement to take started to become really interesting to me. And so it was so incredible to meet you through MFM and Dr. Fox. And I'm so glad that we connected around this mutual love of spreadsheeting prenatals. So here we are.
Yeah, and obviously
So
I
tell me
practice
more,
as a
Casey.
dietitian. No, sorry, I was just going to say, like, I think to put that out there for people, I'm a dietitian. So obviously, I talk about food all day long, and I'm a food first type of dietitian, but supplementation, especially in pregnancy and even preconception and postpartum, it can be essential for a lot of people. So that's why I'm super excited to be a part of this team and make it known that food and a high quality supplement can really make all the difference in how a woman takes care of themselves and their baby.
And so when it comes to counseling your patients, what was your approach? Tell us about, this mega spreadsheet that you developed.
Yeah, and many of my patients and clients would come to me with the same question, like, well, we'd go through what they're eating in a day, and I obviously will make recommendations where possible to improve their diet quality, introduce certain foods that they might not be consuming on a regular basis. But for someone who, is either healthy generally, or maybe they follow a vegan or vegetarian diet or something, or they have morning sickness, just obstacles when it came to getting their nutrition through food. I was like, well, I got to recommend a prenatal supplement or a regimen of supplements that would help to fill those gaps. So similar to what Element has done, I was looking at basically everything that's on the market and kind of cross comparing, well, which one has this and what might be a good fit for individual patients depending on their needs. And so I created kind of my own tool, but the fact that Element now has this very, very easy, supplement comparison tool, I think that's just fantastic that we can put that out there for people.
Yes, and let me see if this will work. I'm going to try to swivel my camera around and actually show the prenatal tool so we can kind of walk through it for everyone. So let's see if this will work well. Decent.
Perfect.
Can see it
Yeah.
okay. So of course we have all of our legal disclaimers at the top, obviously talk with your doctor about any and all of this. This is not meant to diagnose or treat or cure or prevent any disease. But we do hope that this will be helpful educational material. And so, by the way, this can be accessed at element.app/compare or compare-prenatal. So we'll send around that URL. But as you scroll down, you'll see there's all of these filters available. And by the way, Casey, we could have added so many more, but we tried to stick with this so it wouldn't be super overwhelming. You can see here, you can filter by product claim. So to your point, if someone is vegan and needs they can set the filters in such a way that it will only show the vegan prenatal supplement options. And then you can click into certain columns if you want to be able to scroll and compare certain brands. And it is just listed kind of in alphabetical order from left to right. But as you scroll here, you can kind of line these up really easily and start to compare. Okay, like Best Nest has thiamine, whereas Binto does not offer thiamine, etc. And the other really unique thing, in addition to the dosages, is we've also listed down below some of those form factors. And I'm really excited to get your POV around these form factors as well. And as we scroll down, there's, all of those claims. So it's really data rich. And we hope not too overwhelming, but the goal hopefully is to really empower people to get the insights that they need about which prenatals are offering certain ingredients versus others.
And for practitioners too, for the OBGYNs or for dietitians out there, I mean, this just makes, Google searching, it decreases that time burden dramatically. So it's really, really helpful. I can't wait until Elements is on there as well.
I know, me too. I think we're going to come up with something that is really exciting for people and hopefully hits the mark on all of these things that people are looking for. And so diving more into the form factor question, I feel like that's always a much kind of a layer deeper, right? I mean, for example, most people know that they need folic acid in a supplement, especially in the first trimester and even before conception. But then we have this whole debate raging on social media, for example, around folate, the methylfolate versus the folic acid. Can you outline for us where that debate is coming from and kind of what people should be thinking about in trying to parse through all the information available?
Yeah, so for a long time, most vitamin supplements and prenatals out there acid that we know is very helpful for preventing neural tube defects. And so folic acid was the form that was heavily studied. So they did a lot of research and, studies with pregnant women taking it and the outcomes. So that's what we kind of know, and that's why it's included in prenatals. It's also not very costly to produce, and it's smaller. So a lot of manufacturers will put that in there. But a very large percentage of the population, I think it's about 50 to 60% of the population, actually has a gene mutation that doesn't allow them to properly utilize folic acid, which is the synthetic form. What they need is the activated form called methylfolate. So, which is a more expensive, bulkier vitamin. So it's not often included, but we're learning, okay, if so many people have this genetic mutation and they can't absorb and utilize, that's the important part. You can absorb folic acid, but we want to utilize it as this methylfolate form. Why can't we just put it in a supplement as the methylfolate form? So more and more, I think that's becoming more of a popular addition, so that we can cover, the needs of more people. Just because we can absorb folic acid doesn't mean that your body can actually use it in the proper way. That's where methylfolate is a lot more beneficial.
Yes, and I think that the next frontier of this kind of form debate is going to be around vitamin A as well, and sort of the beta carotene versus the retinol palmitate. Can you tell us a little bit about that as well?
Yeah, so that one also has a lot to do with the discussion about the toxicity level of the retinol palmate. So it gets a lot of hype on eating. If you eat too much vitamin A or too much is in your supplement, then it could be toxic to the baby. So we're seeing a lot more that have these blends. Again, that beta carotene is more the food form. And obviously, foods came before supplements. So wouldn't it make sense
Yes.
carrots versus taking a high mega dose supplement? So kind of getting the best of both worlds of those two forms in a supplement. That's the reason there too.
Great. Yes. And so what we have done with Elements prenatal supplement comparison tool, and I'll just show this again for anyone new who is joining. This is what it looks like. We have offered the opportunity to filter by contains both forms of vitamin A. So exactly as Casey was saying, the beta carotene versus the retinol, and then also contains both forms of folate, the folic acid, the synthetic, as well as methylfolate, since this, the research is still ongoing. And we want to make sure that people stay informed and can be really empowered as to what their prenatal is or is not including. And so that brings me to a question that I had very often when I was pregnant, which is there anything in the supplement, in kind of current supplements that are on the market that should be avoided?
Yeah, there are a lot out there that contain a bunch of extra like filler ingredients and synthetic things in there, or just trendier type of ingredients that get a lot of hype, but honestly, you might not need them. I know we were talking about a few of those ingredients being things like silica or titanium dioxide. So you may not even notice that these are in your supplements, but if you take a closer look, past all the vitamins and minerals, you see all these extra things. And, before working with Element, I don't think I had been super aware of those either, why they were in there or why they weren't. But I guess there is definitely some, newer research that's showing things like silica, titanium dioxide have maybe been linked to like placental defects and things like that. So removing those items, they're not benefiting moms or the baby. So they might actually, so
Exactly. And so it's so exciting to me and hopefully very empowering for everyone listening in and anyone who's going to use this tool, whether, to Casey's point, if they're a practitioner or a consumer and patient themselves, just to at least know whether your prenatal is including some of these things that Casey mentioned, like titanium dioxide or silica. And so those are filters that we've included. And even just being able to watch out for some of these more food-based or herbal ingredients as well, like red raspberry leaf extract can be a really powerful, beneficial ingredient, but not for everyone. For people who have had a history of miscarriage, for example, that's an ingredient that's contraindicated for the first trimester. So at least knowing whether your prenatal is including something like that is really important. And unfortunately, to Casey's point, oftentimes it's buried in like the other ingredients. It's not even listed on kind of the main table. So just continuing to ask those questions and keep that in the forefront is really critical. I wanted to ask as well, are there any ingredients that you feel are particularly popular and exciting today? I know choline is one that we hear a lot about. Any others?
yeah, you took the words out of my mouth. Choline is definitely a very popular one. One that you don't see a lot mixed into prenatal supplements necessarily, comes often on its own, is something called inositol. So
Oh, yes.
myo-inositol there's myo and chiro, these two different types, but it's a form of a B vitamin almost, and it acts as like an insulin sensitizer. So it makes your body a bit more receptive to insulin, which is that blood sugar lowering hormone. And so people who have polycystic ovarian syndrome, PCOS, or maybe they have prediabetes or at risk for gestational diabetes, this could be a nutrient that could really benefit them if they were taking it preconception or even early on, to see just wrapped up into your prenatal care regimen.
And that is such a good point that right now we don't have that as a filter setting, whether it includes inositol, but we do have it in the list. So for people looking to compare different supplements, it's very easy just to select different columns, scroll down and see whether a given supplement is including inositol. And let's see, I'm looking at my list, what else I wanted to talk about and share today. Just some additional insights that we have kind of garnered in creating this tool. Some of these stats for me, when we kind of looked at 60 plus brands, they were pretty mind-blowing, to be honest, and shocking in a lot of ways. And so just to share this with everyone who's going to listen in, less than 25% of brands have both forms of vitamin A, the retinol-based and the beta-carotene. Really, again, feel like this is on the frontier of where product development is going to go for the next generation of supplements, hopefully including a blend of both for all the reasons that Casey shared before. Less than 25% of brands have also both DHA and EPA, and over 40% have neither. So let's pause on that for a moment. Benefits around DHA, EPA.
Huge benefits. Yeah. So these are two omega-3 fatty acids, which are crucial for brain development, eye development, nervous system development for mom or for baby, sorry. And they also help to kind of decrease inflammation in the body for mom. So they're keeping that placental function really healthy, blood supply really healthy for mom. So they're crucial. We find them mostly in seafood, so fatty fish and things like that. We find there's another omega out there called ALA, and that's one that we find in more of like the nuts and olive oils and things like that. But we just don't convert it to these omega-3 and food from a seafood source, these omega-3s. But if we can't, or we're not eating seafood 2 to 3 times a week, or we're vegetarian or vegan, having that omega-3 supplementation from a fish form or from an algae-based form is going to help to fill that gap. And I don't know, Doreen, where I even remember reading this. To me, some of the reason why it might not be included in a multivitamin or in a prenatal vitamin is that something about it being taken separately. But I think it depends on the form. I think I remember reading that. So if we have it in the right form, then we can include it alongside everything else. So it's less pills for you to take. It's less cost that you're buying an additional supplement that's $20-$30. We can roll it all into this one convenient supplement so you can get those omegas.
Yes, and just a note about ALA, there were 1 or 2 brands that we saw in our research that had ALA, but it is very rare because, to your point, it's just not as well converted. So most manufacturers just don't bother working with it. And then so many of the brands are just including one or the other, but there is really powerful benefit in having both. And in general, the really interesting thing about prenatal supplements, and something that we're really excited about seeing kind of how this shifts over time, is that fundamentally nearly all prenatal supplements on the market are multivitamins, which means that they're giving you this kind of like in one pill or a set of pills, a ton of ingredients that are all fighting for absorption. And so to your point, it is really beneficial if you can parse out like the fat soluble ingredients like the omega-3s and include that with lunch or with dinner. It's going to be much better absorbed as opposed to combining it with the minerals and the water solubles, where then your body's trying to do too much essentially. So looking out for those optimize absorption based on time of day is really helpful as well, and very nuanced, of course.
Definitely, yeah.
So another stat that we have here, less than 15% of brands have both K1 and K2, and over 1/3, so 38% specifically of the brands that we looked at, have no vitamin K at all. Talk to us more, Casey, about vitamin K.
Yeah, vitamin K is definitely one that doesn't get talked about a lot, but it works synergistically with a lot of other vitamins like calcium, well, mineral, calcium, and vitamin D. Vitamin K is really helpful for bone development. And, we actually produce vitamin K from our gut bacteria. But if we don't have a healthy gut, then we're maybe not producing it in good amounts. It's a fat soluble vitamin, and one other benefit of it is that it can help with, again, kind of blood sugar regulation potentially. So I think it's something that if we can include it in a prenatal, then that's a really good idea. Vitamin K2 is the more kind of like popular one, I guess I would say. It has like a stronger effect, but including K1 as well can also help to boost those levels overall because of the conversion.
Amazing. No, thank you so much for that insight. And we're kind of on the lookout for more brands starting to include both or at least some form of vitamin K. And so when looking at all of these insights and just in general, the opportunity to have a prenatal comparison tool, how do you think about where this plays in for practitioners?
Yeah, I think it depends on how much time a practitioner has, honestly. I mean, depending on if you're talking about maybe a dietitian or whether it's an OB, I think how I would see an OB using this is kind of ticking off those boxes that they can identify through their short conversation with the patient because they are getting through so much in their medical, to really streamline and find a list and handing to the patient, two, three, or four good options that they can then look into and, decide for themselves based on a cost or, accessibility, availability standpoint, what's going to work for them. For a little bit more nuance, if you are working with a prenatal dietitian, which I highly recommend doing, then that could be an extra step further because we can assess, okay, what are we filling in from your food needs and where might we need a supplement? And then take in all those other considerations if it needs to be kosher, a certain cost, or organic ingredients, right? So a dietitian can really help to identify what they're getting from their food and then what would benefit them most from a supplement.
Amazing. So tell us, Casey, how can we stay in touch with you for everyone listening in? And then I'll share
Yeah.
as well how people can connect with ELLEMENT.
Yeah, awesome. So I am here on Instagram for the most part. I'm over at eat.well.together, eat well together. That's where you'll find me. There's a link in my bio that has other resources that you can check out. I have a website, and I'm sure I'll be popping over here on ELLEMENT from time to time too. So that's where I am.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Casey. And again, shout out to Dr. Fox for connecting us from MFM. It's so unique for, maternal fetal medicine practice to have a dietitian on staff. It was something that I just found to be really profound and unusual in all of my research over the last 4 years. So again, I'm so glad that we connected. And I encourage everyone to check out element.app/compare. That will bring up the prenatal comparison tool. And similarly, we'll be here on Instagram, Element app. And it's 2 L's on Element. Thank you so much, Casey. Have a wonderful holiday weekend. And thanks to everyone who popped in to join us today.
Yeah, thanks so much, Doreen. Thanks, everyone.